What does it take to lead a Division I program to greatness and shape the future of baseball? Well, today we're sitting down with a head coach who has over a quarter century of coaching experience. He's led his team to back regionals, and now he's joining us to talk about his program, college baseball as a whole, and what's needed in order to succeed at the Division I level. It is an honor to welcome to the show Jay Uhlman, head coach for the Tulane Green Wave. Jay, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Ian, I'm great, man. I appreciate you having me on here.
I love it. Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you. Thank you for your time, man.
Thank
As
you.
we kind of roll closer to February, right? We're past the new year, man. What is life like for you right now, in anticipation of the season coming up?
Yeah, just we had our summer vacation, so to speak, over Thanksgiving and Christmas break, and the guys were all gone. Of course, I think that's probably the scariest time for a college coach is when the guys go home on their own. And we're a national institution, so our guys don't just reside in our backyard. When they leave, they go all over the map. So, but they've started to trickle in here this week, and by my old eyes, they sure look great, and it looks like they've been productive in their time off. I think it's 50 plus days they had away from us. So again, always scary, but they're starting to trickle in, hitting the weights kind of on their own, and we'll kind of get going here next week. School starting, and just really looking forward to the next, I think, 35-ish days, 36 days, and they sure do go fast.
Yeah, it is. It is go time, to say the least. Man, I'm excited for this conversation. So obviously, Tulane baseball is on the rise right now, man. Back to back NCAA regional appearances. That's big. So with that said, with that comes pressure, man.
Sure.
Is that like added pressure on you, or do you feel like you guys are kind of riding the wave of momentum going into this year, man? What does it feel like right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great to have those expectations, and I think we have our standards in house, and they're always greater than the expectations from the outside. But it's been a journey how it's kind of happened. We have the dubious distinction of having the worst record ever of an NCAA team 2 years ago when we finished 19-42, but found our way into the NCAA regionals because we won the conference tournament. And again, did follow that up again this past year, but started at a much higher floor, reeled off 36 total wins. I think it was behind Florida State with the second biggest turnaround in wins in NCAA from year to year last year. And I think when you go through a coaching change, which we did in 2023, I was on staff and had to navigate a few people saying no to this job for me to get the job. And sometimes that's how it happens. We lost five of our best players in that transition. Was trying to bring in a new staff. And so had a lot of things going on that didn't work in our favor. We never used it as an excuse. We just went to work every single day and plugged away, never blamed the players, kept trying to develop and, stayed positive when we could and tough love at times when we needed, and just kind of setting the standard for what the behavior was going to look like, what it was going to look like when it was bad. Because if we were at our worst in terms of the results, I was dead set on making sure that they understood what losing with toughness and class and a purpose and a process and not being held hostage to what the scoreboard always says, because you can play great and lose and you can play like crap and win. So I think how we went about our business, whether it was the weight room or treating people or how we traveled and how we played, I think those were the things that I really tried to focus on in year one. And I think when a lot of people at the end of the year are thinking about, where they're going to transfer to or, what summer team they were going to play for, we won the conference tournament at the end of the year, which I think speaks volumes for where we were mentally. And I think you can speak to that well in a pro career, that when you get to the end of the year and you're not playing for anything, it's a little difficult to keep people motivated. So very proud of that resilient group, and which pushed us into this past year where we added more talent from the portal and really kind of made a step forward. But in terms of the pressure piece, I think the game presents challenges, and I think how you prepare on a daily basis is going to determine the kind of pressure that you feel, and if you're focused on the outcomes and you're focused on the things that you can't control, I think those are recipes to speed the game up on you and really make you feel the pressure. So our mission is to try to control what we can and be in the moment and be well prepared so that when those things show up, we've been battle tested. We've seen velocity. We've trained versus machines at high velocity and spins and those kind of things. So I'd much rather have the weight of expectations on the outside, because this program, we went to Omaha in 01 and 05. It's 17 league championships and 23 appearances in the postseason. So when you come to a place like Tulane, you're signing up for that standard. So, I love it. Every day I walk into my office, I see, all the past in front of me, which is really important. We honor the past, and so we're in the present and we're building for the future. So the past is who we are and where we came from, and the standard with which we operate every single day. So just really proud to be a steward of this program for sure.
What's going on, everybody? We as baseball players, we as athletes, we all have something in common that we all share with one another. At some point, our careers are going to come to an end, whether we play 15 years in the league or whether we don't make it past high school or college. This is called the Money Playbook. So this teaches financial concepts for student athletes, for professional athletes. It's got a bunch of financial concepts in there that I didn't learn until I was done playing. Go on over to Amazon and check it out. It's called the Money Playbook. It's written by Mark Tepper, who is an NFLPA registered investment advisor. So he has worked with a plethora of professional athletes. Like I said, go to Amazon. We'll leave the link in the bio and the description of this episode. It's a must-have. Check it out. Let me know what you think. You had mentioned, taking over the program at the back end of 2022 and kind of transitioning, hoping to rally the troops, get everybody on board in the go in the same direction. You guys had some transfers you had mentioned. And then you guys are able to, you put together a 19 and 42 season, which I'm sure is below maybe what you were expecting or anticipating,
No doubt.
but you guys are able to pull through and then end up in an NCAA regional, man. I kind of went through a coaching change myself at the end of the fall, right? Going into like the winter, going into, I think it was right around Christmas, man. So I had some time to like wrap my head around it. Basically, what I'm trying to ask is like, how were you able to rally the troops, like build that culture moving forward, kind of get that winning environment going? Even though you guys had a 19 and 42 record, you guys made it to the regionals, man. That's a winning environment, right? Winning teams do that, and then you pull through with 2024 with the year you had. It's insane. How were you able to piece that together?
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it is always about the players. I think the thing that benefited me is that I had a history because I was here for 3 seasons as an assistant. So there was at least a baseline with the guys that were back. And we had a pretty talented core of young players, but they were young. They were just turning to sophomores and maybe had 100 bats apiece. And, I think for me, it was really important for me. And I told this to myself, you wait 26 years to become a Division I head coach, and you have a season, a regular season that, it's like 15 wins, and you're just like, what did I do to deserve this? Kind of, woe is me on occasion. But for the most part, I said to myself before the season started, whether we're doing well or we're doing poorly, I was not going to allow either the pats on the back or the kicks in the butt to define my personality every single day. And I'm a pretty positive glass half full guy as it is. So I try to see the positive parts of that. I dwell on what are the solutions moving forward, what we need to do to get over those humps. And I think how you behave is how your team's going to behave. And I think if you start blaming people, they're going to start blaming people, and then they're going to start blaming you. And so for me, it was never about the outcome. It was always about the process. I can live with the losses as long as the process and the effort was right. And frankly, when we got to conference play in that first year, every Sunday we had a chance to win a series. For as under-talented and understaffed as we had a chance to win a series every Sunday, which in college baseball or wherever you are in baseball is a huge opportunity. We just didn't have enough pieces to get over the hump, but they never quit, So that part was really important. And I think having great assistant coaches that carry the message and that continue to work And as long as there's air in our lungs, we're going to keep battling. And they did a tremendous job keeping the ship afloat that way, and coaching and teaching, and they were young, and they still are. But the frustrating part of losing never boiled over into a blame game or a blanket drag or anything kind of negative. We certainly, you don't like losing, and that's not why you play the game. It's not why they have a scoreboard on. But you also know in the game of baseball, you're gonna lose, just like you're gonna get out 7 times and still hit 300. So I think it's all about the mindset and the mentality, and mirroring the behavior that you want your players to have. So and then celebrating when they do the things you want them to do, and bringing up maybe the points that we were doing this, but here's the things I really like that we really did. It's never about what happens to you; it's always about the response. And so, I'm a big believer in that, as a lot of coaches are. So, just the resiliency, I think, is really the most important piece of that.
Incredible, man. Coach, you. It sounds like you're somebody, man. I would have loved to have played for,
I appreciate
to suit
that.
up for, man. That is awesome.
Thank
Love
you.
to hear it. Now, just to unpack something else you said. So you had waited 26 years in coaching to get a Division I head coach spot, right? And you finally get it, and you get punched in the mouth a little bit, man. You're handed with some adversity, right? You got to overcome it, and it's beautiful. You did it, and you're still kind of paving the way forward. I absolutely love it. Looking forward to seeing the continued success. But if you could look back on your career right now and kind of give yourself some advice when you were going into coaching, right? So you had just transitioned out of playing into coaching, man. If you could give yourself some advice, what would that be?
Well, I think in hindsight, some of the things that happened to me as a player in college, and the response I had to those things, really kind of set the tone for who I was going to become as an adult and a coach. I learned pretty quick the kind of failure that can really debilitate you and take you down the wrong path, or the way you pull yourself up by your bootstraps and move down a different path into a place of redemption. And I chose redemption, and certainly grateful for a second opportunity at the University of Nevada, which is where I was as a college player, and made the most of that. And so I think at that time, I think what that set the floor for me was, no matter what happens to me, I'm going to be okay. That I'm going to be able to move through. At the time when it happened to me, I didn't handle my end of the bargain in the classroom and in my social life, and it cost me a year, and so I was able to bounce back and redeem myself. And I think from that point forward, where I was headed was, there was nothing in my life that was going to keep me from being where I wanted to be. And I still carry that today. That lesson was really powerful for me. And, I started out as a head coach at my junior college, and then again, waited 26 more years to have that opportunity again. And so when you wait that long, there's a lot of keeping your head down and staying humble and doing your job and hoping somebody recognizes what you're doing. Because I'm not a huge self promoter, because for me, it's always about being a great teammate. And that's rule number one in the program, is you got to be a great teammate. Otherwise, don't even bother coming here. So I think all those things lead itself to paths that allow you to be in a moment when you're supposed to be there. I think I was meant, it's hokey, but I think I was meant to be in that spot for us when we lost 42 games, because I know what that failure is like, but I also know what rebounding and what you have to do to rebound looks like too. So maybe right person at the right time kind of thing.
Yeah, everything happens for a reason, man. Everything
Totally.
works out. And I feel like the way that it's supposed to. And we as baseball players, man, there's so much stuff outside of our control. It's tough to kind of like buy into that, right? We focus on the stuff we can't control. We stress ourselves out with stuff that is just out of our control, right? As soon as the ball leaves the bat, we can't deter. Like we have no influence on if it goes through the 6 hole,
Nope.
it's a ground ball, double play, an error, right? We
Yep.
just control our effort and our preparation. There's so much stuff outside of our control. It's crazy. I love to hear that. I love the resiliency. I love the continuing to put the head down and grinding, man.
Thank you.
Fires me up. So
Appreciate that.
we got the landscape of college baseball changing. There's some rules. There's some roster regulations, some stuff changing moving forward, man. With the landscape of college baseball, how it looks like everything's going. What's your take on the impact of things like the like NIL money, man, NIL opportunities, the transfer portal, and what's it going to do to college baseball moving forward?
Man, I wish I had the old magic 8 ball, right? To tell you kind of where it's all going to end, but I think it's pretty difficult to kind of predict where it's headed. I think certainly you can look at it and understand that money's running it, and those that have it are going to be able to pull away faster and further from the ones that maybe don't have those kinds of things. So Pandora's box is wide open, and I'm not sure we're ever putting that thing back in there. So, they're going to, now it's revenue sharing, which is kind of the mold of what it is, what NIL is currently. And then I think you'll see a reformed kind of throwback to NIL, which will go back to the schools and regulated in-house, but that will be more of, so revenue share will be more of pay for play. I think the NIL will be more of kind of an industry standard, meaning like if I'm getting $100 to rep my favorite sandwich brand, but Johnny over there is getting 10,000. That's not going to be okay in the NIL scape. And then there's a thing, Alston money, that's some schools are going to either be able to do or not do, and it's essentially the kind of the cost of attendance. I think it's close to $6,000 a year that scholarship players will be able to benefit from. I don't know, what the scholarship, which schools are going to give more scholarship, which aren't. Right now I'm being told we're not, at least for this next year, that we'll operate at 11-7 still. And so when people start shifting north of 11.7 and others are left behind, how that's going to look, school to school is going to be really challenging, and so I wish I had an answer for it all. But again, I'm not going to point the finger and blame. We can complain about it, which we do. We're going to have to figure out a way to be competitive, and with 11-7 or whatever the rev share looks like or the NIL looks like, and there's going to be people that want this opportunity at a tradition-rich baseball school and an elite educational institution, which Tulane is, and so we'll have to play it by ear, year by year, and so how that's going to look 10 years from now, man, I have no idea. Could there be some programs that go away? I suppose there could. Could there be a reallocation of how the conferences look? Totally. Levels, those could change too. If you only have a certain amount of dollars, you're in this level. So we'll see it. It's going to be an interesting time for sure as we continue to, as the big boys continue to navigate through the football landscape and how they're going to do their business.
Yeah, improvise, adapt, and overcome.
Totally.
Just with the changing landscape, it's crazy. It's super competitive for these spots. It's super competitive in recruiting. Just everything. The total landscape, man. I wanted to highlight where you guys are at. So you're in Louisiana, obviously.
Yep.
New Orleans, man. 90 minutes from you, LSU. 120 minutes from you, Louisiana, Lafayette. So there is a ton of top tier competition just around you at all times, man. Obviously, with that said, some teams have more money than others. Some teams have more opportunities than others. It could be easy to get overshadowed, even if by a little bit. Does it make it tough to recruit, or does it impact the recruiting process, or however you go about doing it in any way, especially with everything changing today?
I think you mentioned 3 programs there for sure that are completely different. 3 different leagues, and I think everyone's kind of got their clientele. I think there are players that go to those two schools you mentioned that have no interest in coming to a school like Tulane, and there's potentially kids that would consider our program that an institution that might not want to go to those places. So I think we have speaking for ourselves, we have a niche. Our cost of education is $91,000. It's not getting cheaper. When you're talking about two state schools where the cost of education isn't nearly as intrusive as ours is, so we have to be able to kind of get. It doesn't exclude us from recruiting marquee 5-star kind of players. What it does do for us is it poses and creates challenges financially that perhaps make kids look in a different direction, because while they may want this opportunity, wanting and the business side of it are totally different. You got to be able to afford it. And if you don't think you can afford it, or you don't see the value in affording it, or maybe on the front end, taking out a few loans that could set you back a few years. But, for us, we call it a 40-year decision where the bulk of your earning power is going to be multiplied several times over a lot of different institutions' piece of paper that they get when they're done graduating. So different strokes for different folks, and we just try to identify the best player we can, and then we dig into the background of what's the family like, what kind of player are they, what kind of teammates are they, do they have the right personality. We're looking for the right kind of personality. We want guys that want to be vulnerable, they want to be coached, they're not afraid to have open communication with coaches, but they also understand when they have those open communication with coaches, they're opening themselves to maybe truths the way we see it they don't like or want to hear. And so we need them to be able to be vulnerable and accept that information, but have the personality to continue to move forward without, suffering a spirit downgrade. We need them to rise to that challenge of here's the things we think you need to do, and rise to those challenges. And so always every school has their own set of challenges to recruit to, and it's just the way it goes.
Yeah, makes a ton of sense to me. So, Coach, before I ask you some questions about player development and your insight on how to get the best out of your players, man, I got to ask you about your stadium, your facility, man. Just doing some research on you guys, man. You have some of the nicest facilities and some of the nicest, coolest gear, in my opinion. Love the colors, love the swag in college baseball, man. It's got to be, in my opinion, part of like the recruiting pitch, right? It's got to be also a way to keep your players hungry, get them seeing that every day. Is that something that you use as like motivation?
I think what I learned at, so this be a little long-winded of an answer, but I worked at Oregon for 10 years, and I think what I learned there was there are different motivations for people to be recruited by places like that have really cool stuff and nice things and uniforms and swag and facilities. And sometimes you secure the wrong ones, and becomes a challenge to coach them and move them in a direction that maybe they don't want to be moved, because their primary motivation is not 60 feet, 6 inches and 90 feet, turn left, 90 feet, turn left. You know what I mean? So I think what I like to kind of hang my hat on is like, we have a commitment from our alumni, our institution, our athletic department, our athletic director that says, we want to make you and give you as many competitive advantages as we can give you. So you're going to have a nice facility, a nice surface. We're going to upgrade your upstairs locker room. That's your primary clubhouse. And then we're going to upgrade your, with generous donations, we're going to upgrade your, what we call our wet locker room, which is a space inside our dugout area where they can leave their shoes and stuff like that, and how we provide nutrition on a daily basis out of our clubhouse, and how we feed our guys, and the machines we get and the technology we get. And so I choose to look at that as this is for your development, not so you can pound your chest and say you have the sweetest stuff on earth. These are just things that are tools in your tool belt to be able to help you with your development piece. And we're committed to your development. We're not committed to your Instagram or your Snapchat or your TikTok or your Twitter, so you can post fancy stuff and make it seem super cool when really it's the roll up the sleeves and get after it every single day with those tools that when you're sweating your butt off and you're putting in 8-hour days. I don't care how fancy your stuff is. That stuff doesn't make you less tired or less sore or doesn't challenge you less or those kind of things. So that's kind of the way we choose to look at it.
I love that. Appreciate that answer.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you
And we do have
elaborating right
sweet
there.
stuff. I appreciate you saying that.
Of
We love
course,
it.
man. Of
We're proud
course.
of it.
So you've, I mean, over a quarter century of coaching, man. At the time of the publication, I was reading up about you. You had 29 players play in the big leagues. I don't know if it's been more, but 29 players under your tutelage have gone on to play in the big leagues at some point, man. That is incredible. So what I'm trying to say is, you know what makes a good ball player, man. You've been around it, you've seen it. What separates those players from the rest, both in terms of like skill and in terms of mindset?
Yeah, I think really it's their own personal standards. They have, we have our standards and lofty. I think they match that and surpass that. Their expectations for themselves are super high. I do find an unyielding work ethic in the weight room and in their personal work outside of just the time we have with them. I think they have an understanding and a toughness about them. And it's not get in the street and throw your hands toughness, but it's, it's 140 something games in the minor leagues, and it's 60 plus here if you're doing it well. And it's a lot of base. It's summer, it's winter league, it's yada, 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 yada. I mean, it's over and over and over and over. And the compound effect of that takes its toll mentally and physically. And so, you have to, and they had the uncanny ability to be able to manage their bodies better, and really super talented and people and tough with their minds really is what it comes down to. But I think there's a lot of people out there that fall into that category that don't make it, and sometimes it's we talk about controlling what you can, and there's circumstances out of your control. You may not be the bonus baby and you may not get those opportunities, and those opportunities are happening less and less with 20 rounds. And, maybe you got hurt at the wrong time, or the wrong person or the right person saw you on the wrong day and hold you. Maybe you had a disagreement with an arrogant roving instructor that you rubbed the wrong way and he didn't like you. And so you got bad mouth. And, so there's just things that a lot of really good players and good people get passed over or looked over or don't get opportunities for things that are totally out of their control. And it's just the nature of the business. And it's unfortunate, but I do think the game rewards the sticker, meaning the stick-to-itiveness person versus the sprinter. So it takes a special human being to do this business at whatever level it is: high school coach, college coach, pro guy. I mean, it is not for the weak of heart, and that goes for the families that support those endeavors as well.
Yep. Something that I came up on in this game was the game honors toughness. It's something that I heard. I first heard it. Man, I don't even know what age I heard it. Didn't really register, man. And then when I got to pro ball, I kind of understood it a little bit more. So just thinking about the next generation of future ball players, man, like the younger players that are one day dreaming of playing for you or playing Division I baseball, playing the caliber baseball that you are surrounding yourself with. Man, what's one thing that they should start doing now in order to separate themselves from the competition?
I think the physicality of our sport, it just continues to go in a northward trend in a big way. We just actually counted today. We have 38 guys currently on the roster, and 24 of those are 200 pounds or more. And the other guys are probably upwards in the upper 180s, 190s. So the game is older, more physical. And it's one thing, and I have a son who's been undersized his whole life. He's got a good skill set. He's a coach's kid. So I feel like he has feel. But in his instance, it's like his physicality is not there yet. So he can't control necessarily those things, but he can go out and work out and do the best he can with the tools that he has now that put him in position for when he makes that next step growth wise. His body's in position to continue to ascend with the strength training and the nutrition. And I would say, these kids come on recruiting visits, and now more than ever, they have I think they have a better understanding of nutrition. I mean, Chick-fil-A is still probably, I think, one of the staple food groups of the summer circuit, but
I had it
they
last
do
night.
come, right. They do come on campus, and we go to dinners, and it's, they're asking for water and they're eating the right things and proteins. And there is a conscientious movement that way. And there has been for some time, but I do really think the separator is maturity and age, which you can't rush. That's out of your control. But the beginnings of a strength program, I think, is really different, and everybody grows different. Everybody's rate of athleticism and success changes. Some guys, as you know, were great when they were young and never got bigger and never got better, and there's guys that you never thought were going to amount to anything, and they become big leaguers. And it's so crazy how everybody's built different.
No kidding. No kidding. I love the answer right there. So, Coach, last question I got for you. Again, so grateful for your time. We're here, Jay Uhlman, head coach Tulane. Coach, so looking back on your legacy that you are going to leave one day, man, if you're just reflecting back on it, man, looking back on your career that you've had so far, what is one moment or one player story that reminds you of why you love coaching this game?
Man,
It's a good ambush question here to wrap it up, man. I didn't even want to give you a
no,
heads up I was asking it, but I figured I'd
no,
throw it at you.
it is okay. Gosh, there's so many, because it's the ups and downs, and there's guys you were close with in terms of the everyday under the hood as an assistant, that you don't hear from, and then there's guys that you never. There was just not that type of connection, that all of a sudden they pop in a text out of the blue thanking you for the time you spent with them, and the message that you sent. And I swear to goodness that those texts or those messages, for some reason, find me in my quiet time when I have doubts about, and I'm human, doubts about the effect that you have on people, sometimes. And it'll just be one out of the blue. Hey, coach, I just want to thank you for everything. I still think about you and the experience we had all the time. Like those, those things are really cool. And I have quite a few guys that I coach that are coaching in college and in high school. So it's always fun to kind of watch them do their thing. And, I think just kind of those random texts from different people, and even managers, not even just players, but managers team managers that you've had, always seem to be some of the most grateful people out there. And then from a team standpoint, I mean, it's really difficult to explain the feeling of having the year we had in 23 and then watching your guys dogpile on the field. That I can't even describe to you what that felt like. But it's cool when you see those things happen on TV now, and you realize really how special those moments are. But it's merely just it's like the cap on the championship, response that they've had over the course of the year. So, I think those things kind of resonate. And there's so many over the course of 28 years. It's hard to just pinpoint one moment or one player or a few. So I wish I had a better answer for you on that.
Nah, man, that is perfect. That is perfect. I appreciate you. I appreciate your time. Thank you
You
for
too,
coming
Lee.
on the
Thank you for
show,
the
letting me run you through the gauntlet of
Yes,
questions,
sir.
Coach.
My pleasure.
Man, thank you again. I
Thank you.
appreciate you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yes, sir. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this recording of the Nine Hole podcast. Hope everybody has a great year. Happy New Year, everybody. We will catch you back here again soon. Take care. Thank you, Coach.